Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Thunder, and this is Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. And we've got a really grateful show for you today. We've been a little bit on a pretty practical, this show tends to be productivity oriented, level up, career development, skills and resources, um, getting stuff done, office politics. We this is what getting ish done is all about. So all about being productive. And though my audience tends to be more focused on the topics I usually do tend to be more focused on black men, and obviously these principles are going to be universal. These sort of level up principles. So today's show, tips for your first day at the new job. Remember last week we covered, 5 signs that you should quit. You need to get out of there. You need to not pass go and collect $200. You need to just get out of there as soon as possible. And that was a good conversation. Make sure you go back and check that out from last week. But say so you walked away from one job, you were not satisfied, and you want to make sure that this next job, that none of the maybe perhaps mistakes you made initially or opportunities that you missed to make a certain kind of impression so that people understood your motives and felt comfortable with you, and so that you were getting stuff done earlier in the game, have stuff already sort of rolling and ready to go, as opposed to sort of going all the way up to the edge of deadlines or whatever it is. This show is going to be all about tips for your first day at the new job. So the old job is over, the old stuff has passed, and now it's a new day with a new job and potentially a new you. So let's get into it. Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. Tips for your first day at the new job. Let's go. Warning: some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. What's happening, Ike?
Yo. What up, what up, what up? Why you gotta do your boy AM1 like that?
With the skills and resources stuff. Yeah, I'm
Oh.
kind of trolling. I'm kind of teasing, but but I'm also, but I am also, a fan of men leveling up, getting their stuff together, getting their house in order. Make
Yeah,
your
we had
bed.
this show. Oh, this is the. Can we say this is the oldest level up show in the space? Longest running.
Maybe let me think here. Well, but
Yeah.
maybe in the black manosphere, I think we
Yeah.
can probably claim that in the black manosphere.
Yeah. So yeah, they should be referencing getting this done, not the skills and. But I'm just a.
Uh, but
Yeah.
but in the general manosphere, CGA has got his money mindset, his
Yeah.
blue chip mindset stuff, and that's I really enjoyed those. Um, those are significant segments that he has on his Wednesday shows, and it's always good, solid, right down the middle. Get off your duff, get some stuff happening, save your money, stop spending money on stupid stuff. Invest. I mean, it's always the right down the middle stuff. So that's always very cool. Anyhow, we're going to be talking today about tips for your first day at the new job.
Mm-hmm.
And the video that we're going to be looking at is called 14 Tips to Start Your New Job. First day at work, how to make a great first impression. And it's from a YouTube channel, Don Georgievich. Hopefully, I didn't botch his name. Y'all should go over to his channel, watch the video over there, and subscribe to his channel. Seems like he's got some good, kind of punchy productivity stuff. Now, I already know what you're thinking.
Uh-oh.
14 tips? How much redundancy?
Yeah, I know it's yeah, let's see. He might really surprise me. Either way, it might turn out to be a two-parter. I'm already
Yeah,
because
yep,
well,
yep.
what comes to mind, Dr. Thunder, when it comes to so new day at work, okay? First thing, first day, how do you shine? Um there's a general category that first comes to mind of like, well, of course, you you don't want to make any of the silly mistakes such as, you want to make sure you're there on time on all those other things. Especially since it's your
Right.
first day, you want to make sure you have an extra time and make sure that you account for all the things that you don't know, and all the uncertainties and this and that and the other, and you've done your research well and blah blah blah. Uh, there's probably a nice little category that he's going to have, including things about how you relate to different, taking care of the other people's emotions, right? Otherwise known as politics, right? So
Right.
how he handles the politics, but is he going to be is he going to completely ignore that, like maybe you would do? Just like there will be no
Uh,
section of that in your advice book, right? Or how is he going to do it? Is he going to go really down the Karen path of go make sure you go down and buy donuts for everybody? But it should be interesting nonetheless.
yeah, definitely. So let's go ahead and get it started.
Hey everybody, Don Georgievich here with Job Interview Tools. Today, I want to give you my 14 best tips for after you get the job because I know you're awesome and I know you're going to land your dream job. In fact, I bet you already did. So the next thing you're going to want to do is make a great first impression. So if you
What
want to
accent is
look
this,
like a
Dr. Thunder?
star at your new job,
Go ahead.
What accent is this, Dr. Thunder?
What accent?
Is this a
I don't know.
Midwestern? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I mean, I
It sounds
detect
pretty.
something.
Yeah,
I just don't know what it is, but yeah.
yeah. He sounds pretty middle American, Midwestern, probably.
tell me now by hitting the like button and we will jump right in. So you have a new job. Congratulations. Now you want to make a great first impression. So let's get you into the right mindset so you look awesome. Step number 1, find out what people are wearing. I mean, it used to be traditional to wear a suit on your first day, but that is old school thinking. I mean, you don't want to stand out like an oddball in a suit if everyone else is wearing jeans or business casual, now do you? Now, you should already have got an idea of what people are wearing from when you went on job interviews at this company, okay? Step number 2, if you have questions before
Okay. So the dress code. What do you think of
Mm.
that?
When you put it that way, the dress code. I guess it makes sense. Um, when he says, "Find out what people are wearing because you don't want to stand out." Okay, cool. I guess I get the general type of guy that he might be. That's just one data point, right?
Yeah.
But this is important. It is important. The dress code is quite important. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. I do so many. Okay, so as an academic, there is no dress code. There is no official dress code, right? Um, but that doesn't mean that you can wear anything
Mm.
you want. Some professors do that, but you still want to sort of gauge the tendency of what other people are wearing is. And I like to be somewhere in the middle. Um, and so even when the dress code has not been specifically stipulated, I still want to be in the middle of whatever the code is. I don't want to be the sloppy dude, but I also don't want to be, you know, uh, like Jim Halpert, the one day that he decided to wear a tuxedo to work as a joke, and that was the day that he met the new the new boss, and so now he feels stupid because he's wearing a tuxedo with like a cummerbund and the whole thing, sparkly shoes, the whole thing, bow tie. I mean, it's all there, and so you don't want to be that person. In like on gigs, it's very important, obviously, to know the dress code. Also, because again, you don't want to stick out. And say if I'm doing a private party, and say if it's a wedding, there are some general rules, some general guidelines that I follow in case there isn't a lot of information. So I have a lot of black. So like black dress pants, black button up shirt, long sleeve shirt. I've got lots of versions of that. Black shoes, right? Um, and that'll get me through a lot of stuff. Um, you know, uh, there are some bands that I play in where there is a very specific dress code. So that actually makes it easier because I can just make sure that I have those clothes ready to go. Like a band I'm going to play with uh, this Saturday. I'm sorry, not this Saturday. This Friday. They have a a band shirt. So I'll wear the band shirt, and then I'm supposed
Mhm.
to wear khaki pants, right? And then I'll wear dark shoes. So there you go. That makes that really easy. But yeah, dress code's the kind of thing that you can you can, and it depends on the kind of people that you're around, but you can really send a certain kind of message that you don't intend. I worked at a church, big evangelical church. It's a white church. It's a multicultural church. There's lots of other folks there, but it was ran by white folks. It was a white church and good people, um, but they were very, very um, kind of earthy. I mean, it's a mega church, but they were like really earthy and like um, the preacher doesn't wear a suit. You know, you show up to play and everybody's wearing jeans. They're wearing sandals. You know, um, you could get away with wearing like they didn't want you to have like a t-shirt that had like Miller Lite on it or something like that. Not necessarily anything against Miller Lite, but or against alcohol at that particular church, but just because they didn't want any logos, right? So I'd have to pay attention to that. But I could wear like a short sleeve shirt, some jeans, like this, and that was the thing. And I tend to feel at home, um, because I don't really like dressing up. I don't like wearing a suit. I do it because I have to, because it's the appropriate thing to wear. But that's not really my preference.
Hmm.
But you could. But if I was like showing up to that church frequently, even for staff meetings and stuff, everybody else has sandals on, and I had like a suit on. I have like a 3-piece suit on every time I show up. At some point it's gonna start getting weird, and because they're
Hmm.
not gonna dress up to me in that context. It's
Hmm.
just going to be me sticking out, and then you just have to start asking, well, what is the reason why I insist on wearing these clothes, though I see everyone else is not wearing those clothes? What is the
Hmm.
point that I'm trying to make? And that might not be the point that you want to make. What do you think?
Oh yeah. So I tend to be overdressed than underdressed.
Yep.
It has always been the case, and I don't mind it. I don't recommend it though. Like with most things about me, right? It's like, okay, even if I'm doing something quirky, it has nothing to do with me telling you what to do. Even if I'm doing something quirky or mundane or regular or whatever, it has nothing to do with me telling you what to do or why I do it. You may not even understand why I'm doing it. But 100% I tend to be more overdressed. It is a completely individualistic type of thing. I do know how not to maybe I'm not gonna be douchey about it. I'm not gonna try to call attention to myself necessarily about it.
Right.
Um, because in other words, yeah, you got to know my dress style is still simple. It's not particularly flamboyant, right? Yes, I may be wearing an actual 3-piece suit, uh, but you're just gonna find out. Oh, it's just Ike. He just wears he just dresses that way. That's fine. It's still gonna stay out of your way. If you're that type of person, then you don't really need any particular kind of guidance. You know why you're doing what you're doing. You know how to handle those types of social situations and whatnot. Uh, but for sure, yeah, know the dress code. The way he is, it's one of those kind of like, duh. Well, obviously, you should know. Now, where I do consider sometimes if I'm gonna go talk to certain clients in certain places, um, from a persuasive point of view now. So if you're just talking about office, right? In an office, if I have to go to an office, then I generally dress the way I like to dress, which tends to be more overdressed. Fine. If I'm going somewhere to talk to clients or and such, I do adjust though. Since I'm in the construction world for the most part, I do not want to be 3-piece suiting in certain kind of environments. These guys tend to be
Right.
more, these are, yeah. And it doesn't matter whether you're the C-suite of the construction outfit or wherever you are, there is a kind of a general ethos of uh, more function. functional. I wouldn't even call it casual because it's not necessarily casual. If you're going to the job site, it's not a casual thing. There's a uniform.
Right. It's still a
It's
uniform. That's right.
safety protective gear type stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, I was at a data center recently to go install check some things, and I realized, oh crap, I forgot my vest. Or so I had to call my buddy and be like, hey, you got a vest? Basically, the safety vest, right? So safety vest,
Mhm.
safety goggles, hard hats, and steel toe boots. I gotta have those if I'm in that environment. And if I'm in the office with the same type with those people, it doesn't matter where they came from. Typically, in these types of outfits, people are gonna they're not just gonna just pick some MBA to run the thing. Like, no, it's gonna be, if it's an electrician outfit you're talking about, or mechanical construction outfit, or like, these are cement people, it's gonna be from the actual people who did the work, and then project managers the work, and so on and so forth. So even if you're talking to the CEO is a construction type of guy,
Mm.
right? So even if you're gonna be clean and everything, you don't want to overdress in a particular kind of way, because so I do pay attention to that aspect for sure. So I'll overdress under normal circumstances if I'm not trying to persuade anyone of anything. But when I'm trying to persuade people, right, then I pay attention.
Now, of course, the other part to this is because in all the stuff that we said, I think is valid and actually is sort of general purpose. If you wanted to be more specific to, this is the first way I'm going to present myself on the job. After the interview's over, you got the job. The first week, what are you going to wear?
Mhm.
New job, right? New
Mhm.
people, depending on, so there's a slight nuance there. There's something else that you have to address, because where you work now, if you're in the office, everybody already knows you, and they know that it doesn't mean anything that you dress the way that you dress, right? Um, but what if you
It's
discover?
kind of interesting.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if you bringing up this kind of time aspect of, okay, here's the first instance of you showing up. As a matter of fact, I might argue that this is the time that you maybe want to overdress, or maybe this is the only time you get away with overdressing.
I
Everybody
see.
expects the guy on, new guy on his first day to look a little sharper than the rest of us slobs, right? Generally
Right.
speaking. And I think that it might be a good time to show, you clean up nicely, you can look professional, you're not a complete idiot, blah blah blah, and then you can kind of moderate over the week down to the where you're gonna end up landing. So if you bring up the actual first day, I would not so. Where I would then give a tip here is, hey, maybe take a page from my book. Don't be afraid to stand out a little bit. You know, it
Hmm.
actually so what has been my experience standing out, right? It has never been bad, to be honest with you. It's if people will give you compliments. Number one, they will say something like and there's never been any kind of a weird, kind of a awkward vibe. If I would even go so far as to say that if you're worried about that particular, if a vibe about you being a particular overdressed, maybe you're worrying a little bit too much about what other people think. Maybe this is a sign, or this is an aspect of worrying
Yep.
about what other people think. That is just a bridge too far. It's a little too far. I know that people have to think about what other people think, right? That's normal. Um, However, this might be taken a little bit too far. Being
I have
overdressed,
a
in my experience, generally has never. Yeah.
I have a Dad Wallace, my dad. I have a dad story.
Mhm.
So my dad, he worked for state government, and uh, he was basically the highest uh, ranking bureaucrat that's not elected, right? Um, and was really good at his job, so he survived several regime changes between Democrats and Republicans coming in. Usually, those jobs are the ones that they fire them, and then they tighten their cronies up with those jobs, because they're high paying jobs and whatnot. But it's challenging too, because if that person really has sort of a finger on the pulse, you kind of don't want to remove that person, because then you're going to really look like an idiot, because you're not going to know what to do, right? Um,
Hmm.
so anyhow, he told me this story because my dad wears, and still to this day, he wears cowboy boots all the time and a cowboy hat all the time, right? So we go to, um, when I was a kid, and he was taking me to, gigs and stuff, because, I was too young to drive. Or he was taking me to music conferences and different things. He always had the same thing on. And part of the reason that he did that is so that people would recognize him, like, right away, because it was unusual for a black guy, to be wearing cowboy boots and a cowboy hat. So you just know who it is immediately. So that was a I think that was a smart thing, right? Now here's on the other side of this. He wore that also to work, and
Hmm.
and especially when the sort of a other party was in there. There was a lot of it was pretty uh, hostile. It was hostile in a lot of ways. And so one time he was in the bathroom, and uh, he heard, they thought that he had left the bathroom, and so these guys were talking about. It says, you know, this this uppity ninja, wearing a cowboy hat and like this, right? And then he opens the stall, he leaves out, and he says, you know the he says, the only time that you he said, the only time that you rascals will be dressing me is when I'm stretched out in the casket, right? but but I think it underlines a couple. There's a couple things that I think that underlines. One is, you could have a reason to wear a certain attire because that makes it easier for people to recognize you. So that could be a reason. Um, and then the other thing is, um, ultimately, it's whatever you're comfortable with. He has a reason why he wears that, and it's not just about being recognizable. It's about, you know he's a horse guy. I mean, he owns horses. He does, he actually has, he's actually done, provided horses for movies, right? And this is all stuff that he's done since he's been retired. So he is just, he's that kind of guy, and he's just really outdoorsy and earthy. That's just the kind of dude he is. And so he wears what he wears because
Hmm.
that's what he feels comfortable with. And he always had a suit on when he wore. So he didn't just have cowboy boots and a cowboy hat. He had a suit on, right?
Hmm.
So anyhow,
I dig that. I dig that whole kind of branding type thing. I get it. It's rather iconoclastic, and I was saying, oh, if you're that type of person, you have your reasons and whatnot, right? So that's a good example. And some people might see that and be like, you know what, let me take a page from that book, or be a little different, because to be honest, this guy's attitude of find out what everyone is wearing. I don't want to stand out like a from a non-practical perspective, a non-pragmatic perspective, like you're standing. If standing out means that you're going to job site and don't have the right protective gear, I get that. But if you're just talking about what other people and not wanting to stand out, I it's like chill out for a little bit. Um, people people actually may like you better, find things more interesting, or just or it might suit your social ends more if you try to be a little bit more of an individual sometimes. But anyways,
Well, I think too. I mean, it can also be part of the sort of uh, being transparent about what your bias is. You know, like it makes it more.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm more comfortable talking to people that have enough awareness that they are biased, that they're not actually fair and balanced, and all of that. They don't just see things from both sides. All of that kind of stuff that people say, and you can attempt to be try to see things from different perspectives, and that's fine. But everybody has a bias. In identifying your bias, being willing to tell people, yeah, this is where I'm at. This is the stuff that I'm into, and so my tendency, if anything, is going to be sort of to lean this direction. So now it makes it easier for me to understand them, right? And so attire can sort of have a similar, it can do a similar thing. You know, it can actually help people
Mhm.
to understand like where you're coming from. You know, if you're kind of more
Mhm.
flamboyant, or you're the guy that shows up with the cowboy hat, you know, that you kind of know how to take that. Now you still have to get to know the person.
Dude,
But
yeah, you know what? What you just said, I'm like, it sounds so obvious, but now that I think about it, yes, from my perspective, the reason, what the way I dress communicates a lot, and I'm trying to communicate exactly that. I'm trying to communicate exactly what I look like. That there's an aspect of myself that now there are layers of reading and misreading, right? But if the first thing that you get out of it is this is a square and things need to be done in this particular kind of a square way, then that's good enough, right? Because that's the main thing from a practical level, right? From a practical level, it's okay. This guy is going to be about business and about his business and about doing things in a particular way, maybe not a lot of fluff or a lot of blah, blah, blah. That's what I'm trying to communicate. And I want it to be there so you're not surprised because that is generally my personality as well. People might find me a little bit on the drier side, um, being not having as much soul per se, being a little bit too blunt and all that kind of stuff. And it's not going to be surprising, right? You're gonna be like, oh well, yeah, he's always wearing suits and crap, right? So it fits. So that's an actually good point. Yeah.
yeah, okay, all right, let's keep going.
Before showing up for your first day, just ask. I mean, reach out to the hiring manager or someone in human resources and ask your questions. Don't be afraid to call on them. I mean, after all, they're not going to take away the job that they just gave to you. Step number 3, obviously, you want to be polite
Okay, so I missed something here, so I'm gonna go back a little bit
of what
here.
people are wearing from when you went on job interviews at this company. Okay?
Okay.
Step number 2, if you have questions before showing up for your first day, just ask. I mean, reach out to the hiring manager or someone in human resources and ask your questions. Don't be afraid to call on them. I mean, after all, they're not going to take away the job that they just gave to you. Step number 3,
So one thing about this is, and I know I'm still using the Office, references. Um, I like to make friends with Toby. Toby
Mhm.
is the HR person, right?
Mhm.
And traditionally, often is the case that the manager will have like some sort of issue with the HR person, because the HR person uh, often will sort of thwart attempts that the manager makes. So the manager wants to be particularly punitive, or wants to be able to make people work more, or hey, we'll just pay them overtime. But actually, the HR person can tell them, no, actually, we're not allowed to do this according to the policy. Our policy X, Y, and Z. Maybe the manager is actually involved in breaking certain, you know, codes of conduct in the way that he associates with his employees. And the HR person is the person that the other employees go to complain about the manager, right? So you have this sort
Mhm.
of usual kind of there's kind of a rub often between those two. And of course, they do a good job of really playing that up in the series The Office. But I like to make friends with Toby. So I show up at a new job. I like to make friends with Toby. So financial people, executive assistants, HR people, I like to go and make friends with them because um, they can really hold you up. They can really jam you up. You know, they can really do things and or not advocate for you as much as they could, which could jam you up.
Mhm.
What do you think?
There was somebody that I knew in college. I used to do the same thing. And this was in college. They would know like the secretary of all these departments that they're taking classes in. Now, this is a little bit. Now, this is some students would not think to do this, but this is a person that utilizes the world of extroverted feeling very well. This is a master of playing that game very well, being nice to people, knowing Claudette over here in the business department and everybody everywhere in all these departments. And somehow they're able to get things done quicker, transfer this, get this syllabus, blah, blah, blah. I need this transcript, something, something, whatever it is to their purposes. They're always getting it done that way. It was something that I kind of admired. And with regards to HR or anybody that can cause you trouble, anybody that can also be the place where other trouble might be coming from, like the nexus of trouble, if you will, the place where people will come and complain, right? About you want to have your ears down there 100%. So, yeah, making friends with that person makes 100% sense to me.
Yeah, and of course, I'm not an extroverted feelings person, right? Uh, but I still see the benefit, and over time, I've seen more of the benefit of doing that. And it doesn't have to be like um, being on a first name basis with people, knowing some biographical information about their family, about their kids, what grade their kids are in, how old they're. It's not necessarily all of that. It's just being cordial. It's right from day one, getting some FaceTime and say hi, hey, how you doing? You know, looking forward to working with you. I mean, it can just be something really, really basic like that. And is and the thing is that you're probably not going to see them that much, but when you did see them, they saw you with a smile on your face, you know, um, being positive towards them. You weren't your first interaction with them wasn't, hey, what the heck is going on with my check? And it's been late for 2 weeks now. It's not that's not the first interaction. The first interaction was just something positive and lighthearted, and I think that can go a long way.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's keep going.
Obviously, you want to be polite to everyone, but to really grow in your new job and to make a good first impression, strategy helps. So get out from behind your desk and meet people in your department. I mean, even if you won't be working with them directly, just connect and build rapport. Be social and let them know who you are, and that if there's ever anything that you can do for them, let them know. And when you get out there and you meet people, this action will build rapport and you will create an imprint in their minds that you are someone who is genuinely happy to be here, willing to serve and eager to work. I mean, it simply sets the tone for yourself. I mean, obviously, you can't meet everyone on your first day, but taking time to make rounds and connect with your coworkers will pay off in time. So get out there and meet people and show them that you're excited to be there. Step number 4, don't be
Yeah. So
Yeah, if go ahead.
No, you go first. I have an idea of where you're gonna go. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you don't want to do this, don't be compelled to do it. If you don't feel like doing it, don't do it. Um, uh, don't listen to this guy. This guy is making his necessity a virtue, right? This is what he has to do. And most people are extroverts. Most people, and a lot of people are extroverted feelers. And even if they're not, even if you're not, they kind of set the tone of the gathering of what is the social tone, what is the emotional tone around the gathering around the campfire type stuff. They set that tone. So uh, he's just preaching from that tribe. Now they think that their way is the way of being moral and the way of being upright and the way of like, oh, go there and show them that you're excited to be there because you know that if you in his mind if you don't do that then somehow you're there's something off about you. You're not happy to be there. Maybe you don't like the people, right? That's how they would judge you. But don't worry about how people like this judge you because part of their growth process, right, is to learn that that thing that they're doing is a necessity of theirs. It is not a virtue. It's not a thing that should be normatively given out as prescription to other people, like, hey, this is how it should be. It's like, no, they have an anxiety about people, about what other people think about them, and going around and making sure that everyone feels good about them and they feel good about people. And I'm excited to be here and all that kind of stuff. Like, if that sounds like nonsense to you, which it does to me, then there's no reason to take any of what he just said, right? No shade to him. And if what I'm saying to you right now resonates, then you know people like this guy. The only flaw that I've detected in what he said is it tends to be a blindness to thinking that this necessity of theirs is an overall virtue, and it's not. There's nothing wrong with you sitting in your corner doing introvert stuff.
Doing introvert stuff. Yes, that's what I love the most in life is sitting in the corner and doing introvert stuff. Um, you know, it's interesting because part of what he said was sort of echoing what I had already said, right? But he is just expanding it. He's saying, okay, not just with a couple people that you definitely have to work with. Now you need to do it with like everybody. And then in addition to that, make sure that they're aware that you're just so willing to bend over backwards to do anything that they'd like. And yeah, that's never going to be something that I'm going to do. But first of all, because um, I want to be genuine. I, I want to actually say things that I actually believe. And beyond a certain point where I'm not comfortable with it because I can perceive that it's going to start sapping a lot of energy because I don't have deep reservoirs of small talk energy. I can just see yeah, so that's definitely not going to be something that I'm going to want to do. I think you can take an aspect of what he said and it makes sense, but when it starts to get to a point where you're like spreading it out to everyone, that's when it starts getting like, yeah, I can't handle that.
So, Dr. Thunder, a couple
Yeah.
of things come to mind. One, and I want to kind of respond here. One is when you said, oh, when you kind of echoed my sentiment of sitting around doing introvert stuff, there was the immediate kind of like, do you think you're better? Is this arrogance? Do you actually don't like people? And then you went and you kind of said, don't have reservoirs of small talk and on, right?
Right.
So people would ask you, like, what's up with that? Like, from the point of view of what this guy said. In other words, he's showing enthusiasm. You're not showing enthusiasm. In his world, you're dragging down the vibe. You're like a little
Right.
ice igloo over there in this room that they're trying to be warm. right?
Right.
So it's like, why are you doing this, Dr. Thunder? So A, can you help them understand, right? that, and then what you do that first. Are you an arrogant prick, don't like people, think you're better? Why are you doing what you're doing, Dr. Thunder?
It's interesting because I remember, like, as a kid, even in middle school and in high school, I remember that um, some of the kids uh, uh, described me as being conceited, right? And really, what the issue was is that I'm an introvert, and I talk to you if I know you. If I don't know you, then you're going to have to talk to me first. Because that's just that, because I'm an introvert, unless I need you for something, right? Unless my teacher said, see that person over there, you don't know that person, but that person is such and such, and they have something that you need. Go over and introduce yourself, and then ask for the thing. See, that's a different thing, right? But I don't have any reason to talk to you, and I'm introverted, right? So that's just what it is, and it's not because I think I'm better than anybody else. I'm not a jerk. I'll tell you one thing though. I have a knowledge of um, what my limit is, and what you're asking me to do is to live beyond where my limit is, right? And if you're talking about, you know, dragging down the vibe, that's when you're going to drag down the vibe, is when you're making me live on the outside of my limit. um, so
Now, to kind of so yeah, they're pushing you outside something. They're doing you harm, right? They're sapping your energy. They're doing all kinds of things to you that they don't understand, and you're trying to keep peace by just staying out of the way. Um, Needless to say, their judgments can also be harmful, right? But at least if they leave you alone, they're not doing any further harm. Their judgments regarding the fact that your way is immoral somehow. And then number
right,
two is, if you look at this guy's demeanor, if I just progress him a few months into the job, right, in my head, this guy that's excited and all this kind of stuff, right? He's gonna have all kinds of friction with all kinds of people. Okay, he's gonna have all kinds of wasted energy in this world of extroversion that he's doing. All these people and all these names and all the crossing of the names and all the gossip involved with this stuff, because we know what people do, right? What do they do? They're not there, solving calculus problems. No, they're gossiping and getting in, being Karens, generally speaking, about each other's business, and knowing a little bit too much and this and that, and hurting their feelings and blah blah blah, right? And that's almost 20 to 30% of just heat and wasted energy and reasons why things can go wrong, and things that you then take, because he'll take some of this stuff from his work and he will go home, and his spouse is going to be hearing about Gladys and this and that as well. Okay, that is another point of view. Just giving these people who may be asking you, Dr. Thunder, those questions that they asked you, giving them a point of view from your side. Like, look, here's what we also see happening when you guys do what you do. Okay, what
right.
you guys do is not 100% pristine and clean. It just involves a lot of heartache, headache, BS, blah blah blah, right? So just wanted to say that.
Yeah, the see, here's the thing, and what's what I notice about most introverts, in comparison to most extroverts, um, is introverts don't tend to be particularly judgmental about extroverts. They're not trying to make extroverts be introverts. They're not trying to convince them that they're wrong, and how dare you, waste all this time hanging out with people, and How dare you actually be energized in the company of strangers? You know, you know, it's not that kind of thing. But there's a great deal of uh, dare I say, almost condemnation coming from extroverts about you know towards introverts, where an introvert just wants to be left alone. I'm not bothering anybody. I'm not telling you what to do, right? How is it that they feel like it's their job and um, that it's within their right to impose on an introvert, their particular approach? And again, the sort of judgmental uh, sort of approach, making value judgments about a person based on their uh, lack of desire to engage in small talk ad nauseum. Like, what's wrong with that person? You know, well, maybe that's not what they want to do. I'm not trying to make you do anything. Why do you feel like you have to make me do something? If I'm telling you I don't like going to mixers where I don't know anybody, I don't like to go to events where there's a whole lot of people around, and I'm, you know, I don't want to do that. You can do that if you want to. I'm not judging you for doing that. I would also not judge you for sitting in the corner by yourself, for that matter. But why is that? You know, it's a that's a it's a source of some frustration, because
Just one more
again,
word
most
on it.
people are extroverts. Go ahead.
Yeah, just one more word on it. And I mentioned that it's part of their growth process, right? And it is true. And um, the extroverted feelers have the biggest issue with introverted thinkers, right?
Mm.
That's the beyond just the general introvert extrovert axis. The introverted thinker is a big problem for an extroverted feeler. There's a particular personality type called ESFJ. This is your um, Karen, not necessarily when Karen. This is yeah, they become Karens when they go crazy, right? But when they're not
Right.
crazy, they have baskets of flowers and they're organizing the flower thing in the neighborhood in the cul-de-sac and so on and so forth. And they made lemonade for everybody. That person, okay, that is their zone. They're some kind of describing the person that has the biggest issue with now their way of operating, which is this extroverted feeling thing, their way of kind of knowing their values themselves, how they feel grounded, is by reflecting off of others. What do others think? Now,
Yeah.
in a certain way, it's like I'm calling them drones or something. No, the whole the social situation is more sophisticated than that, right? But one point about that, sometimes when you're talking to these people, you have to, from an introverted point of view, you have to look at them as though you were talking to a group. You're not talking to just this one guy. You're talking to the feeling of, blah blah. It represents something, right?
Mm.
And that's kind of how you have to look at them sometimes. But the issue they have with you is when they project themselves onto you, right? The behavior that you display would be, if they were to be doing that, they would be in a horrible place. They're in a rut, they're in a funk, they don't like people, or they feel down. There's something wrong, right? If they're acting the way you're acting, right? And they do until they grow, right? Part of their growth process is to overcome this particular, is to deal more a little bit internally so that they can understand you, right? Deal a little bit more internally with regards to values, right? Where they can kind of start to see, oh, there is an internal source of values that, anyways, let me not go down too deep down that line. But the problem they're having with you is that this projection reflection thing, which extroverted feeling is, when they project it on you, it's all bad. They're seeing themselves. They're not really seeing you, right? They're just seeing themselves. And until they grow to really examine inside Because these are the kind of people who would talk about, oh, I didn't really know what I felt or what I thought, or this person really, um, they tend to feel overpowered also by like the feelings of others. They tend not to take a great deal of responsibility for their own values or their own wants and desires. These are because of the kind of amorphous nature of their wants and desires, because it's all based on the reflections and such. And until they
Mm.
overcome to see that, look, these values of extroverted feelings are a good in and of themselves, right? But to be stuck in them is not a healthy way to be emotionally forever, right? They
Right.
need to do the iteration whereby whereby they can judge and look at themselves and have certain stance. These are the people who talk about self-love and self-care, and I got to go know myself. They tend to be, they're coming up against that barrier to try to grow. Most people don't grow, we know, but I'm trying to perhaps paint a picture, and hopefully I'm being clear regarding when you see people against this particular growth barrier of, I need to start thinking more of myself, or blah blah blah, that kind of self-care look in inner. It's these people, right? They never, because they never go in there. Okay, they just never do. And all they do is project out to you, and what you're doing is just completely bananas. And if they're not quote unquote thinkers, then they're not gonna even try to understand it from a third person perspective, right? You forget about it. Okay, because an extroverted thinker, right? Uh, ENTP, Kaizo, for example, or something like that. He can at least see why you're doing what you're doing, but no, not a feeler. But anyways, I'm done.
Yeah, and um, what was I gonna say? Yeah, and then you have the sort of combining the sort of extroverted feeler with sort of being an optimist, right? And so then what I've experienced with people that I know that tend to be both extroverted and optimists is that when and because I'm a realist, right? So what happens is my realism gets interpreted as pessimism, right? And and often is the case that they may not be quite, they're not particularly resilient as far as maintaining their mood. So it's like you're raining on their parade, and so that's a, you know so they don't respond particularly well to that. So you have to sort of measure how often you say certain things. You have to try to say it in a different way, you know, um, because they're not as resilient. For me, you could say a bunch of negative stuff, positive stuff. It wouldn't matter what you said to me, but I'm still going to maintain this sort of realist line. It's not going to be too high. It's not going to be too low. It's just going to be kind of right in the middle, and just kind of measuring things. And, well, that seems like that's a little bit hyperbole there. Oh, that seems like maybe you understated that there, you know. So that's going to be my thing. And so my mood is not really adjusted particularly by people saying stuff that's
Mhm.
bad news or whatever. you know okay. So there's bad news. You could give me some good
Yeah,
news,
killing the vibe, and
and the good news is not going to
that's the good
change.
thing about you sitting in the corner.
Right,
Exactly.
right,
Um,
right.
the good thing about you sitting in the corner is you don't. Yeah, you're not. You have experience knowing that they don't really want to hear what you have to say. You
Right.
know,
Yeah, see
that you
that's
don't
the
really want
thing.
to hear what I think.
Yeah, right, right. And that's kind of a drag. That's a drag. That's a drag, for an introvert. Because that they don't really want to talk about what you want to talk about, or want to know what you actually think. So what I do is I avoid I avoid those situations. People will ask me, they'll start saying something, and I will literally say, "You don't want to know what I think." And I say it, not mean, but I say it with enough sort of like enough edge so they know that, yeah, we probably don't want to know what he thinks, because it's going to be better for everybody. This is going to be better for everybody. You know, because it's not going to be. First of all, it's not going to be a bunch of, there's no small talk associated. I'm going to go way too deep, way too soon. You're not going to like that. You're not going to be able to handle it. And then, I'll start. I'm interested in stuff that you're not interested in. And so there's certain nuance and little points and details and stuff. That stuff's going to bug the heck out of you. Why can't we just say what you're trying to say? Said, well, yeah, but it's really important for me to say it a certain way because I want you to understand what I'm saying. Because when I get to the end, I don't want you to be able to simply unravel what I'm saying because I left some loose ends all over the place because I was trying to speed up and just spit it out. So anyhow, let's keep going.
Afraid to ask for help during your first 30 days. I mean, your manager wants to see you succeed, but before you ask a question, try to think through the whole problem and try to solve it yourself. And then ask for help if you need it. I mean, asking for help is okay, but you don't want to overdo it. Number 5, learn.
Okay, so he's saying think through something before you ask for help. Don't just go and ask for help. And now part of this is I actually kind of like this because I do like this because you can tell when somebody hasn't done anything. They don't even know the first, they don't even know how to form the question because they've spent no energy. They've done no research. They've spent no time trying to figure out anything so that they could at least be precise about what it is exactly that they need, what piece of information that's going to sort of be the key that unlocks the issue. So they don't even know that, but they're just asking this like general, stuff, right? and it's kind of like it's a waste of your time, and it's kind of at one level it's sort of disrespectful, right? So it's kind of like, you think you can just come and just ask me some softball goofy question that you could have asked Google? Why don't you spend some time figuring it out and then come back and talk to me? What do you think?
I like it. I like it. You want to help people whom are showing the ability to, and this is uh something about me. And by the way, he is rattling off these numbers. I don't mind the fact that there is no kind of he's not doing any chunking. He's not or that these things are redundant or whatever, because I it's kind of funny. His whole personality, like, I get him, right? Like, he's okay, he's that guy, and he's gonna say everything and gonna count every bean on the plate and go on and on about it. Okay, great. Okay. So, but with regards to telling people, um, it's almost similar to not liking small talk, right? It's like, if you're gonna come to me with some silly surface level question, you suggest that, like, "Well, what the hell is this? You're trying to occupy my. This is completely inefficient to be asking me something that you could ask Google, or asking me something that should be obvious, asking me something that if you had put in a little bit of time into studying and preparing, it would not be a question. You should have some deeper questions. You should blah blah blah." So yes, 100%. Part of the reason why I don't talk to people is because I know that they really aren't gonna understand what the hell I'm gonna be saying. Okay, and and I don't like to do these midway gate stuff. It's kind of interesting because if people are honest, they know it's true, right? In other words, it's not like because if I was sitting in my corner saying, "Oh, I'm being haughty, and these people don't understand me," it's like, no, in real life, okay, these people have met, you know, shout out to INTJs out there. You've met probably, which by the way is like 2% of the population. So you meet every 50 people you might stumble into one of us, and you have met these people, these introvert types of a thinking variety, and you try to talk to them, and you don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so it's not us just making it up. Now, you guys don't know what we're talking about. We know you don't know what we're talking about. We want to save everybody the experience of this whole awkwardness, right? Guys are not
Yeah.
interested in what we're interested in, and we're not interested in talking about the weather or whatever shallow, vapid nonsense that is going on at the time, right? So,
Yeah.
point is, if someone is not going to have some kind of depth, or they're just going to be asking you basic, stupid crap that they're going to forget the next moment, you know, and all that kind of stuff, then I'm not interested at all. And but I was just going to mention that I don't like doing the halfway conceptualizations or the mid level stuff, right? Um, some people call it watering down, right? You could
Right.
call it, yes, I don't like watering down. Um, but basically, I just because I think that the what some might call the highest level conceptualization, or just the lowest level conceptualization, or just the concept itself, is the simplest form, right? So I just want to tell you, if we're not talking about the concept, I'm not interested in all the different really crazy arrangements that people have made in mid-level land of the concepts, right? Which are all wrong, right? It's like, oh, why do I have to remember 1,000 different BS analogies you guys have come up with when there's just one simple concept here at the base, and I just like to deal with the form itself. Okay. So people don't want to deal with the form. It is rare that anybody wants to deal with the form. And I don't want to talk to you if you don't want to deal with the form. It's basically what I'm talking about, right? So forget it. But anyways, I'm done.
Yeah. You remember we were on that, and shout out to Dana, the real Dana. Um, we were on that show and we were talking about, I can't remember, Kemet and a bunch of stuff like this. And um,
Yeah.
so here's the thing, and I presented the Kalam cosmological argument for the existence of God, right? And that argument has really specific points. It's a syllogism, and it has specific points. And the thing is that you can't really not state one of the points for the sake of watering it down, because then it loses its effectiveness. It's no longer, I believe, an irrefutable argument. Then you can get some stuff in there, right? So when you soft pedal, when you softball stuff, um, you're actually doing everyone a disservice. But the thing is that a certain personality type cannot handle you actually walking it down slow and addressing each one of the points, you know. And so it's just
Okay, so
so why
yeah,
even engage?
it is frustrating. It is frustrating. Okay, but let's do some steel manning, and not for the purposes of even the other side, because there are levels of intuition and levels of intuitive expression as well. So what
Yeah.
I'm getting at is, you can build brick by brick this thing, but there is a way. Now you're going to be talking to somebody perhaps who has intuition, right? There is a way of at least having a through line statement, or having a through line intuition about what the general thing is, then what is the general nature of the cosmological argument.
Right.
Well, yes, it's a syllogism. It's a syllogism that ties up what in a particular kind of way, and you can find like a something that okay, boom. That way, if someone is intuitive, then boom, then there's these shorthand things you can do rather than before you go through premises and then conclude blah 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 that kind of thing. So I think that that is a good thing. Now, shout out to Kaizo again. I think that Kaizo, for example, is someone who's particularly good at communicating things at this level of form and logic, right? But
Hmm.
using a lot of intuition to not make it seem as though he was writing a bunch of code, like line after line of code, right? So for me, I try to like, okay, cool. If I'm going to be talking to somebody at all, right? And we can use this kind of intuition stuff. I'm always interested in finding ways of shortening, creating these through lines, sewing things together in particular ways that people can like obviously like in what I've been saying, a lot of things I've been saying to you so far. I've been using a lot of imagery and this and that and igloos and
Right.
corners
Right.
of
Right.
rooms and
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah. I mean,
and all that kind
um,
of stuff, right? Yeah.
right, and that's just and a lot of that is just good communication skills, regardless as to if you're introverted or extroverted. You know, 'cause you still have to be able to talk to people and get them to understand. You're always going to have some sort of barrier, but you still are charged with the responsibility of presenting information in a way that it can possibly be digested by who it is that you're talking to.
Mhm.
You know, but otherwise, what's the point? In at least in the Kalam cosmological argument, there are 5 points that are pretty punchy points, and then you could, if you wanted to, you could get in depth with each one of the points. So at least it is presented that way. Um, but
Mhm.
anyhow, interesting. Let's see here. I want to get through probably point 7. So I think we have 2 more points here. And then I think we're going to end up doing part 2 next week on your channel.
Learn what everyone else does. I
Sounds
mean,
good.
as you're meeting your Number 5, learn what everyone else does. I mean, as you're meeting your coworkers and introducing yourself, find out what everyone else does. Ask their titles, the projects that they work on, and anything else that you feel is important to know at the company. And knowing these things is going to be very helpful to you when you need something or you need to refer a colleague to someone who can help them. I mean, have you ever worked somewhere that someone just knew everything? I mean, I have, and I always went to them to get what I needed. And this is the person that you need to become. And this will elevate your status in the company. And when it comes time to promote someone, I mean, who do you think is going to get the promotion? I mean, the person in the know. And that would be you. Number 6, don't stress out yourself. I mean,
Learn how to be a really good bean counter. Is what he just said.
Yeah, like all of a sudden you're gonna be the. It's like no. It's kind of funny. I could picture the future disappointment in this particular some innocent lady. He's telling that. Oh yeah, so I'm gonna go to everybody. I'm gonna learn what they know. I'm gonna try to learn everything from interdepartmentally or whatever, and then I'm gonna get the promotion. It's like no, that's the knowledge game and the place you fit in it and knowing your particular skill and stuff like that. I mean, that's a well-defined game already, man. Like you're not
I
gonna,
just think that
you're not just
that's
gonna
like
randomly take some YouTube advice.
it's another job. It's a
I'm sorry, what'd you
freaking
say?
another job. It's I'm sorry. The whole time he was saying that, I was just thinking, just get a freaking what is it? What is the org chart? Just get the org chart. Okay, there you go. Now that's done. Now you don't need to know any of that. You have hey, put it on your desk or something. You know?
Well, here's the what he's been saying so far is how to integrate yourself. So you integrate yourself aesthetically, socially, and then socially and culturally, and then now functionally into the work, right? So the good aspect of so he's not speaking from a functional point of view. He's just saying things such as, "Well, know everybody," but it's like no. Basically, you want to know where the bathroom is, okay? You want to know who has the keys to the bathroom, okay? Let's say, all right, that's gonna be important. And then there may be some other impediments to get into the bathroom that you need to go. Boom, done. Like you mentioned earlier, knowing someone from HR for certain reasons because they're the nexus point of certain type of information and where trouble can come from, right? Fine, great. Those kind 100%, like knowing your resources in the example that he gave, like, oh, there's this person that, knows everything that you go to. And then he took this wild turn of like, oh, so you're going to become that person somehow. And I thought that's kind of really dangerous advice. Okay. Because, and then the next point he's about to make now is don't get stressed. But it's like, you're just stressing the F out of a particular person. Look, I was going to talk about like the knowledge landscape, the people who in the know and the people who know stuff. That's a deep game, and the game is typically already sewn up. And if you're that type of person playing that kind of game, you already know who you are. No, this guy doesn't need to be telling you, right? I play the knowledge game in a particular way. That's what I do. That's how I make my money. Is I'm a knowledge guy. I'm an engineer, and also in any particular organization, I'm using my particular ways of knowing and ability to gather vast amounts of information to my advantage politically and whatnot, right? To randomly tell somebody that they're just going to become, you know, this particular play. And even then, I know my lane, right? I'm not going to go compete with like a Dr. Thunder in depth in some particular area. And it's like, no, I'm gonna like, I'm saying like, I know that guy's got that whole area there sewn up. I'm leaving that department the hell alone, right? So he's not gonna just be giving somebody general advice to become this knowledgeable person, and then you're gonna get a rate. Like that's insane. Like that's really this is. Anyways,
Yeah. So say for instance, if the person that's watching his video just got a new janitorial position, so now he's got to know the org of the company. He's got he's got to become the knowledge guy. So now they're going to be knocking
yep,
on the janitor's closet.
yep.
Hey, who do I talk to about? Okay.
Gonna get a
Yeah.
raise, promotion.
I mean, starting a new job is stressful enough, but you're not going to learn everything you need to know in the first week. I mean, it usually takes 3 to 6 months for new hires to become fully productive. Now, during your first 30 days, I mean, you have the biggest grace period to come up to speed. So use this time to learn everything you can, because in the coming months, you will be expected to start doing your job at a much higher level. So let's move on to number 7. Ask smart questions.
Okay. So there is kind of a what do you call it, a probationary period or whatever, where you're still kind of getting your sea legs, and people are still they're more likely to help you with certain kinds of things. They're a little more generous, you know. They're still asking you, so how are you doing? How's is everything still okay? You you know, are you finding everything like please let us know if we can help. So they're still telling you those kinds of things at that point. Um, but then you're going to get beyond that period of time, and that's really where you need to have used this first, say, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, to really, really become super efficient at your job, to become really, really good at what it is that they hired you to do. Um, what did you think of that point he was making?
Oh yeah, I um download as much information and consume as much information as you possibly can that first week. Yes, 100%. Um, and if you can have a routine, depend on your kind of job, right? But if you can kind of have a routine of consuming uh, information, article level information, it doesn't necessarily need to be the super in depth level information on a even daily basis or weekly basis about your craft. It's a it's a generally good advice. I was given that advice a couple of times as a both as an intern, also as a young engineer out there. Um, and it is an area of weakness of mine, in the sense that knowledge of knowledge of particulars, especially when it comes to procedures and functions of certain types of things, is not my particular forte. I like to have a general intuitive knowledge of how things work, right? And uh, how to manipulate the mental objects and the forms to solve problems, right? But a particular system, a particular, let's say if it's accounting, for example, a particular accounting methodology, right? That it uses this particular software, and here's this green code and this red thing, and here's the way of pushing the buttons. Or if it's in engineering or whatever, and it's the latest thing, and here's an article about it. That kind of level of knowledge is something I tend not to really focus, not to be of high interest to me, but I know that it is useful to have it. I tend to go brush up on it if I need to, like, oh yeah, cool, let's just go do a quick Wikipedia on something, right? Um, but for sure, in the first, since this is the first day, type stuff, or first week, consume as much information as you can. If people say, oh, maybe you should spend all that time that he told you, for example, that you should spend knowing everybody. Okay, erase everything else he said. Okay, spend all the time studying the information for the job, studying the means and methods of the job, learning your particular strengths in the job, your pitfalls, having the list of questions, right? As to, well, here's this particular software that I'm not really good at. How I don't really, not really sure how to log into this particular site and use this, blah, blah, blah. And then know the people to ask. So we're talking about functional. He's an interesting kind of cat, right? His personality is rather backwards from mine. But I would have started here. Okay, know this stuff, consume that information, and then go fill in the gaps with asking the right people the right questions, and preferably, if you don't have to ask anybody, even preferred, right?
Right. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so we're gotten up to point 7.
Move on to number 7. Ask smart questions. I mean, have you ever been in a meeting and you ask a question and then felt like an idiot for asking it? I think we all have. Asking those kinds of questions shows that you don't understand what's going on. And since you're new and you don't know what is going on, you want to ask questions that show curiosity and a desire for understanding. So when a coworker explains, let's say, a process, I mean, you might say, well, why do we do it this way? And a question like that shows a desire to learn. Now, most people are going to say, why don't we do it this way? Which sends a completely different message and forces your coworker or your boss to defend their method. Do you see the difference on that? I mean, one is a smart question with an opportunity to learn, and the other is a negative question where the action must be defended. All right, number 8.
Okay, what did you think about that sort of little nuance that he put in there?
Yeah, he did a little curveball there at the end regarding, again, etiquette rules. I think that it is actually. Let me take the actual good stuff out of it. You want to know how to do both. Okay, first of all, you want to know how to ask questions that are direct and ask that other people defend their positions, right? You want to know how to do that, because otherwise, it's not it's not clear exactly what the parameters are, what the terms, if we understand, blah blah blah. And especially when you're trying to solve problems and stuff like that. But also you want to know how to ask quote unquote open-ended questions, as in, why do we do it like this? And give the person the opportunity to give you the why, as opposed to defending the why, right? From
Right.
a sales persuasion perspective, it's always good to know how to ask open-ended questions and to coax things out of people. People generally want to talk, okay? And after they give you that whole why, let's say they want to talk. First of all, know how to coax that stuff out, and typically you coax it out with the means that he kind of described, which are not questions that require them to chat or defend their position. But also, as they talk, they're going to give you the weak spots. If they're an honest and introspective person, right? Right? Hey, Dr. Thunder. So why do we do this way? Dr. Thunder, you're gonna I'm still one of the things I know in this particular point in the decision tree, I took a left, right? I decided to go with a maglev HX, whatever. Who knows what we're talking about, right? But you know what? I'm still wondering if maybe HXZ will be better than the HX1 that I chose, right? So you, Dr. Thunder, will be telling me give me the decision tree, give me the kind of decisions that you made, why you chose to go left versus right, the things that you're still maybe uncertain about, and then maybe I might be, you know what, I maybe what I was thinking that was maybe you should go with the maglev Z also, and now it's my opportunity to say, hey, so why did you not do that, right? And then we can get in there as opposed to me just bringing the challenge from a high level already. So I think that it makes sense. Okay, where you could just bring the challenge, right? You can bring the challenge, you can bring the awkwardness, you can bring the weirdness or the whatever it is. As long as it's an idea that's being talked about, they can filter down to that decision tree that we talked about to get down to, okay, here's really the crux of why I do it this way. Here's where we could go differently, right? You tell me what you think. Do you think let's do the cost benefit analysis of going the other way in this particular juncture here, right? But that's like less than 1% of the population that can handle things in that way. So at the end of the day, his advice is pretty good. Um, just the way he sounds, he doesn't seem to be. Again, he doesn't seem to. I look at these things as tools. Where it's like that's why I said first of all, you need to be able to do both, right? So this idea, he is more saying this other aspect is the default. You should always be kind of cradling things that you say, and making sure. No, I don't think so. I don't think that's a very that's a rather neurotic way of being. Right? This guy has just described a very stressed out life, right? Of constantly worrying about what everybody else is doing or thinking and stuff like that. So you want to be less neurotic. You want to be able to challenge people and have them defend their positions. You also want to be able to coax things out of people. It's not, anyways. Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, yeah. I think we have a troll in the chat. It says,
Oh,
hello, Master Dr. Thunder. May I have permission to ask what's your shoe size and sock color? Why don't you always show your dress socks on your feet and say what's your favorite type of something slave? Of sub slave. Yeah. 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 I'm probably not going to answer that.
that's
I'll answer that if you put it in $100 super chat. Anyhow, so so anyhow, thank you, folks, for checking out. This has been the first part of this. We're going to continue this discussion next week. We got to point number 7, so we got 7 more points in this video that we looked at. 14 tips to start your new job, first day at work, how to make a great first impression. And so part 2 of tips for your first day at the new job, getting it done, will be on Ike's channel next week, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, make sure that you come back on Sunday for Case Closed. And we'll have a topical, the highest level conversation on the most important topics in this space. Case Closed, and that's moderated by Aiko Giamian. And then let's see, what else do we have? Tomorrow's going to be a busy day. There will be 3 streams. I've got in the morning, I'm streaming Rolling Thunder, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then I've got 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time concert. Dr. Thunder Quartet is performing the music of Thelonious Monk. You want to talk about Black American music, important jazz composers, Black men in music, all of that. Thelonious Monk, he typifies all those things. Very important figure. So we're going to be playing 20 of his compositions. It's going to be a really great show. And then a little later than usual, there'll be a Two Dads React. It'll probably start about 11:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So come back and check that stuff out tomorrow. And Friday morning will be an open panel for Rolling Thunder. And there actually is, on my community tab right now, there is a poll for you to decide what you want the topic to be. So vote, and we will cover the topic. I will cover the topic that you desire. But like, share, comment, subscribe, become a channel member where you'll get access to all archived videos. Support Black Male Media, support independent media. Super chats enabled. Super thanks for the Replay Gang. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Dr. Thunder Music, all one word. Spell out the word doctor. If you'd like to buy me a sandwich, then shoot me a Cash App, hashtag Sandwich Gang. And if you didn't know, sandwich is spelled with 2 M's. Again, this has been Getting Ish Done. And so it is my prayer that you will get off your duff and get some ish done. That's our time.
Peace.
We'll see you.